Hey guys, this is Rudy coming at you live from Palm Beach in Florida. It is Sunday. It is January the 15th. Earlier this morning, I stumbled onto a post, which is a thread on Twitter, and I thought it's really, really interesting. I read the entire thread, participated in some of the comments and discussion that was happening on the thread. It's all about greenwashing and how the people, just in general, the politicians, the political leaders, the World Economic Forum, the people who go to COP27, whatever, talk about green energy. And really, if you bundle it all together, it's just a bunch of greenwashing. But I thought this thread on Twitter was particularly interesting. And I'm going to share this with you. And as a disclaimer right from the get-go, the information that I'm sharing with you is not mine. I am not a mining expert. I do have some opinions related to green energy, which kind of leaks through every now and then. And sometimes I forget to wear my unbiased cap and share information with you that tells you kind of exactly where I stand in terms of my opinion, as opposed to just giving you information. But in this particular instance, what I am going to do is share information from a gentleman by the name of John Lee Pettimore on Twitter. You can follow, if you're on Twitter, you can find John Lee Pettim, Pettim 13, and follow him there. Just by way of an introduction, I do not personally know John Lee, but he says he is a mining mechanic, OPUG, 3 times Red Seal, Mine Rescue, CAF is Canadian Air Force veteran, from the Tian Shan Mountains of Kazakhstan to the bitter cold of the Yukon. I'm guessing those are places where he worked. Mining, 40 years, retired. So I am not an expert on mining at all, and I bow to the wisdom of people who know more than what I do. But more about that in just a little while, because I talk a lot about energy, and I do want to broaden our horizons a little bit. So I'm going to start including some more footage related to mining in the very near future. More about that in just a second. So John reports and he says, as a miner for 40 years, I've worked in various mines around the world: gold, platinum, copper, coal, lead, zinc, etc. I'm going to tell you something, and here it is. We will destroy the earth in the name of green energy. Follow along and I will explain. Mining Watch Canada, I'm not familiar with the publication. I'm not sure what Mining Watch Canada is. I didn't look it up. He's estimating that 3 billion tons of mined metals and minerals will be needed to power the energy transition. And it's especially critical for 6 minerals: lithium, graphite, copper, cobalt, nickel, and rare earth minerals. Over the next 30 years or so, we will consume more minerals than the last 70,000 years or past 500 generations. I'm not sure how you calculate these kinds of things, but I'm not an actuary. So maybe that's why I don't know how they calculate these things, and I have no comment on that. I am just reporting. John continues and says, mining requires the extraction of solid ores, but this ore needs to be processed, and it creates an enormous quantity of waste, about 100 billion tons per year, which is more than any other human-made waste stream. Purifying a single ton of rare earth requires at least 200 cubic meters of water, which then becomes polluted with acids and heavy metals. On top of that, imagine the destruction and energy required to obtain these essential metals. And then he gives us some examples here. I'm just going to read one of them. 18,740 pounds of purified rock has to be mined in order to produce just 2.2 pounds of vanadium. And you can see at the bottom here, he has mentioned a number of rare earth minerals in his examples. By 2035, it's not too far away, sort of 10 years and a bit, demand is expected to double for germanium, quadruple for tantalum, and quintuple for palladium. The scandium market could increase ninefold, and the cobalt market by a factor of 24, according to the reference he's quoting here, Marscheider Weidemann, 2016 Raw Materials for Emerging Technologies. The demand for rare earth metals is exponential, which means if you want to start investing in a future growth industry, now might be a good time to get into rare earth minerals and metals type companies. Because remember, even though I don't know much about the subject matter, I am always wearing my investor cap and always viewing cash as cash awaiting investment. We are already consuming over 2 billion tons of metals every year. There is nothing refined about mining. It involves crushing rock and then using a concoction of chemical reagents such as sulfuric and nitric acid, etc., etc., etc. The guy knows what he's talking about. As rare metals have become ubiquitous in green and digital technologies, the exceedingly toxic sludge they produce has been contaminating the water, soil, and the atmosphere, and the flames of blast furnaces, says John. If you think solar panels are green, think again. There is nothing green about solar panels. Did you know that we clear cut forests not for panel placement, but for the wood needed to produce the panels? I didn't know. He says, if you don't believe me, have a read. I put this big green arrow here because I'm going to show you on the next page a link to the PDF that he's referencing. I have seen the destruction of mountains, lakes, and pristine waterways, all in the name of green energy. A recent report by the Blacksmith Institute, I don't know them either, identifies the mining industry as the second most polluting industry in the world, soon to be number one. Why? Green energy. Here's the article he's referencing. Why do we burn coal and trees to make solar panels? This makes absolutely no sense to logical, rational, normal people. By the way, normal people scare me, so I'm okay to not be classed as normal. John continues and says green technologies require the use of rare earth minerals or rare minerals whose mining is anything but clean. Heavy metal discharges, acid rain, and contaminated water sources. Clean energy is a dirty affair, he says, put simply. Solar and wind facilities require up to 15 times more concrete, 90 times more aluminum, or for my British friends, aluminium, and 50 times more iron, copper, and glass than fossil fuels or nuclear energy. Nuclear, by the way, is the cleanest, safest, most efficient way to produce energy. But nuclear has been lagging from an investment point of view. It's done okay, but I would have expected it to have taken off by now, especially with the energy crunch that we've experienced over the past 2 years. Mining the materials is needed for renewable energy potentially affects. Mining materials needed for renewable energy potentially affects 50 million square kilometers, which is 37% of the Earth's land. Now imagine that number tenfold as we go into the future. He concludes by saying, if you've gotten this far, believing that renewables are clean and green, well, then I have a bridge to sell you. We thought we could free ourselves from the shortages, tensions, and crises created by our appetite for oil and coal, but instead we are replacing these with an era of new and unprecedented shortages, tensions, and crises. Now, I talked a little bit about mining at the beginning of this video. Coming up early February, actually starting on February the 6th, I will actually be attending the Mining Indaba in Cape Town, South Africa. And this was brought to my attention by my good friend, Matt Kuhnke, who is one of our members of our YouTube community here. So thank you for bringing this to my attention, Matthias, and I look forward to seeing you there as well next month. I'm going to literally block off some time between now and then, and obviously at the conference itself, and then after that as well, to make sure that I do some due diligence on some mining companies that may be of interest to us from an investment point of view, and report back as I go along. Now, of course, I do this firstly because I like it. Secondly, I do it for free, and I do it so we can help one another to grow some generational wealth and make sure that we preserve our capital for investment. So I'm going to leave you with this picture, which John also posted to his Twitter page, which kind of sums up the concept of greenwashing quite nicely. You know, let's all be happy and smiling about green energy while we live in a proverbial toxic dump. Now, I first learned about greenwashing, which is actually a term used quite frequently by marketing people when I was at graduate school. And this goes back quite a few years, obviously. And, at that point in time, we were doing case studies on companies that were kind of faking their way as being environmentally friendly, green energy providers, focusing on the 3 Ps, which is people, planet, and profit, and probably in that order, because they say profit comes last. And from a business point of view, I say profit comes first, because if you don't make a profit, you cannot support people or the planet at all. So, but they talk about these things, green energy, environmental consciousness, and the 3 Ps as it relates to in being environmentally friendly and low carbon offset and all that kind of stuff. I'll just go out on a limb here and say 90% of all the stuff that you hear that they tell you about green energy is garbage. I don't want to get into a discussion here about global warming or climate change, because you may have some very valid and good educated opinions on that, whereas mine are superficial, typically 1 inch deep and 5 miles wide. But on that note, I'm going to leave you to sort of ponder John's Twitter thread, and then you can let me know in the comments what you think about this greenwashing environment that we currently find ourselves in. I'll talk to you later. I'll be back with more. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.